Let's talk about the intermediate. First question, find word in capitals. So we got a sentence and we were asking to find whether there is any word written in capitals completely. So here we got I, here we got memory, and in the last case we got nothing, right? So yeah, everyone managed to get the answer, but they can clearly see, right, left and right, different approaches. So let's review them, right? First of all, Jin. So Jin. So Jin said, result, split the sentence into words and then try to find the capital one. So if I got something, then return it. If not, return an empty string. That's probably the best option. I haven't seen the rest, but that's the most optimum one, right? Look, sentence, you get a list of words, and then you find the capital one. If I found it, return it. If not, return an empty string, right? I have, however, a small concern about this solution. Two concerns. The first one is obvious. The second one is not that obvious. About how can we optimize this a bit? Can you spot any of the things that we can improve here? First of all, probably Jin got an extremely unnecessary penalty, not because the lines were too long, but because, yes, the line eventually went too long, but because the formatting was wrong. Look at the indentation, right? So you're indenting it two additional blocks. So your code should start here, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second problem is, it's not a problem, that's absolutely fine, don't get me wrong. Is there any way to optimize the return statement?
Yeah, so the result or integer.
Correct. Let's prototype that. This is very important. If we have a new snippet here, so if I have a function called get score, so that will return, if I get the score in here, so can you tell me what will this print at the bottom? Sorry, correct. And what happens if we want to change the algorithm? So if we don't pass any score, we want to say that your score is 0, for example, right? So what Jin did was, if I have the score, then return the score. Else, 0. That's what she did, right? So technically speaking, that's correct. Look, I'm not sending any argument. It works, it returns 0. But as Ben was suggesting, we can do that. It's even easier, right? Here we said, hey, return the score, but if we don't have any score, then or, right, return 0. Why this is happening? Look, so can you tell me if I do true or false? Well, unfortunately, Chrome is spoiling the result, right? But true or false returns true. Makes sense, right? But what Peter or false returns? Peter, right? What false or false returns? False. And what false or Peter returns? Peter, right? So the double pipe operator is very powerful because you can perform these kind of things. It's like return whatever is true, either this or that. Right? Any question? No? Cool. So back to the exercise. Yeah, apart from that, the solution of Jin was very good. So you did the same thing pretty much. Split, find, it's the same thing. But you look, he did what we mentioned, right? So you fail adding a space before the pipe, right? It's a silly mistake. And then I personally prefer, in terms of readability, ignoring the wrong indentation. I prefer Jin's approach because it's easier to read. Look, we get something, and then first we split it, then in a new line we find something. In use scenario, it's a bit more complicated to read because everything is inline. So my suggestion is every time you have to deal with arrays, before any dot, dot find, dot filter, dot map, dot reduce, dot sort, dot join, dot split, dot whatever, new line, because your code becomes more readable, right?
And the appropriate indentation is one tab.
Yes, proper indentation is one tab, not one, oh, instead of 1, 2, 3, right? Just one, here, right? Cool. Tom, no, sorry, before Tom, Osman. Osman, he did something different. So first, even though the solution is the same, but instead of inlining everything, he preferred to create a variable and then find the capital, right? Then he did the same as Yin, so that line is unnecessarily complex. And please, Osman, remember to add spaces, because otherwise this is very hard to read, right? So add a space surrounding the question mark, add a space surrounding the colon, add a space surrounding the triple equals, all these things, right? But apart from that, it's really good. Again, I'm not particularly opinionated against inlining everything or creating a variable. I find this strategy a bit better, but this one is better in terms of debugging, because Osman could add a breakpoint here, right? So he could expect what the value of words is at this stage of the journey. However, Yin and you, they couldn't do that. They couldn't add any breakpoint because they got just one line, technically speaking. And Tom, so it's the same thing, right? So Tom, it's a mix of everyone else. So he split it, so same as Osman. So he created a variable, and then he got the capital, and then if the capital is there, then return it, if not, empty string, right? So remember, we can use here the double pipe, but apart from that, looking good. Gray probably got a penalty as well, right? Because this should go to a new line. Fine, put it here below, right? And then, Gray, why are
No
you...
idea why.
So capital, what type of data capital is? Is it a boolean? Is it a string already, right? I mean, that it doesn't hurt, it's okay, but you do string dot to a string. It's just a bit unnecessary, right? And Victor, we got Victor and Alex. So Victor, our friend Victor. So Victor, I mean, first of all, let's try to look after we don't need I have a theory about empty lines, right? We shouldn't have any empty line on any function. I know that some developers argue, but the code is more readable because you have spaces, right? If you need the spaces to write readable code, then you have a problem, right? If you have a very long function, then the solution is not to add break lines, it's to split the function into another function, right? But anyway, ignoring that, so he did a split again. So Victor has some issues with the naming convention, right? So for example, you call it a string, Osman call it sentence, Tom string, sentence, str. I personally prefer sentence because it's giving you more context about what type of data are you working with, right? But anyway, apart from that, array. But array of what was that, right? So these are the list of words. P. What's P, right? So let's try to think about the semantics, right? Apart from the semantics and apart from the empty spaces, so you try to find the capital word, and then you do. If I didn't find it, then return an empty string. But if I found it with this funny break line before the curly bracket, then return it. So that's literally the same thing everyone else has done, but you see that you had to write more, right? But technically speaking, it's the same thing. So a few things here. Try to use ternary operator for simple things. Try to rename variables, bring proper semantics, and remove the empty spaces. Okay? And then Alex. So Alex had the same issue as Yin by adding unnecessary two unnecessary indentation, right, in the left, And apart from that, that's literally the same thing as Ian proposed, so nothing else to talk about it. Cool. Question number 3. So yeah, Alex was the only one who didn't find the answer, but as she's not in, we'll skip her. So get divisible values. So we got a number 12. So we want to get which numbers are divisible by. Is it divisible or divisible? Divisible by 12, right? So if it's 12, obviously it will be 1. It's essentially all the numbers that are below 12, the result of dividing 12 by that number, the modulus is 0, right? It's basic maths. So why 1? Because 12 divided by 1, the modulus is 0. Why 2? Same thing, right? So, right, let's see what everyone has done. So Jin. Jin, she got a number, and that's interesting because he said, okay, my divisible number, the first one is 0. That's very dangerous. Can anyone see why this is, even though it works, is a bit scary? Exactly. The only reason why probably it didn't explode is because JavaScript is smart enough. So if you're trying to get the modulus and you got the number 0, then it will probably ignore the division, right? And it will just return, I don't know, false probably, right? But is there any reason why we should start the algorithm in number 1 instead of number 0? Probably not, right? Because 0 is never going to be one of these values, right? But apart from, sorry? Yeah. Cool. And then the indentation, right? This is clearly wrong. So new array, because it's part of the curly brackets, it should be moved to the right, right? And remember to add spaces, subtle details. That's very good, but we are missing the space here, right? Yep. And apart from that, that's good. Then we got U, which is the same thing. He likes to use for loops, but they are absolutely equivalent. You can compare both solutions. And yeah, apart from that, nothing to. You see that U is starting from number 1, which is correct. Yeah, so that's fine. That's fine. I'm trying to find something wrong here. Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
what's the difference again between ++i and ++?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm not really convinced why this is working because I++ means that this is evaluated, if I is 1, this is evaluated as 1, and then at the end it will be upgraded to 2. But ++i, it means before evaluating anything, I'll update the value from 1 to 2. So that's why I find this example a bit weird, because to me the first value of I should be 2 instead of 1, but this is working, so that's not the case. So again, JavaScript is smart enough to delay the upgrade of the I value. I mean, I personally prefer to put the ++ after the I, and that's what, if you are doing a for loop, you should do all the time. So what's next? Osman. Osman, very similar to you. So I equals 1, blah, 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 blah. I'm still not sure about that neither. Why this is working? I'm a bit confused, I'll be honest. No, sorry, I missed it. Sorry. No, that's absolutely right. Right? Because we're doing I is less or equal than number. So once in the first case, so if I is 12, 12 is less or equal than 12, so that's still valid, right? So in this particular aspect, that's the same thing, a for loop, right? And that's it. The only reason why I prefer Osman solution instead of use is because indentation. Remember you, right? So this is wrongly indented. Every time you have a curly bracket, whatever goes next should be indented because it belongs to that scope, right? So Osman did it right, you see, ignoring again the space between the parentheses and the curly bracket, the if block gets to the right. Cool. And Tom, you see, this is, I find it complicated. And the first reason why I find this complicated to read is because these two lines are wrongly indented, right? So array should be indented twice, probably, and this closing curly bracket should be indented once. And this should be indented once as well to be aligned with the for loop. But apart from that, look, this is fun. So he's doing I is less than number plus 1, which is correct, but in reality we could do I is less or equal to the number, right? Does it make sense? Cool. And then gray, that's interesting because even though the syntax of gray is pretty much perfect, ignoring the last semicolon, so don't you think that it's a bit strange to have a variable in red color? Because that's the only one who has a variable in red color, right? Why? Correct. Correct. You can compare gray solution against U, right? So you look at that. So they use the same variable name, but you initialize the variable. So every time you play with a variable, please initialize it. I mean, declare it, right? With let, var, const, whatever, right? And also, gray, as Jin did before, he's doing something scary again by initializing I to 0, right? So that's not what we will do. We want to initialize it to 1, right? But apart from that, yeah, looking good. Then, why Alex's solution didn't work? Well, because she just didn't complete it, right? So she was trying to get to filter the divisible numbers, and then probably her plan was to wait a minute. So what's wrong here? Right, that's interesting. What's wrong in here? That's actually, that looks much better than I was expecting. It's really close to work. That's really good solution, and that's very different to what everyone else has done. Why this doesn't work?
The function takes different arguments.
The function takes different arguments. Really?
Just get one argument.
Correct. We were expecting just one argument. So that num doesn't make any sense at all, right? But apart from that, I really like the approach. So let's prototype it because as no one else has done that. Right, let's do that. So get divisible numbers. Something like that, right? So then we got the number. So this is really good. So if we got 12, we were expecting to return 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12, right? So what she was proposing is she wanted to filter, but what's the problem with filter? The problem with filter is it works with arrays. However, our values is not an array, right? So I'm afraid we can't use it. But what happens if we have an array? So we can solve that. If we got that, so what she was trying to do probably. What she understood, probably she misunderstood the question a bit. So, yeah, I mean, yes, you are right. So let me put it back. Yeah, I got a different snippet. Yeah, here you go. Right. So what she wanted to do is, if I have a list of values and I have a number. That's what she understood, right? Tell me taking this number as a reference, which numbers here are divisible by that, right? That's why what she was trying to do is she was trying to do, okay, I got the list of numbers, the values, then filter numbers that the result of dividing number by value is equal to 0. I think she was trying to do something like that, right? So let's recap that. I iterate on this list, right? And then for each value, first 1, then 5, then 7, then 12, get the modulus of number and 1, number and 5, number and 7, and number and 12. So every time the modulus is 0, then return it. So what should that algorithm return?
Y modulus 2.
Sorry?
Y modulus 2.
Y modulus, because we want to get the divisible numbers. So divisible numbers are numbers that the modulus of dividing them is 0. So the modulus of dividing 12 and 6 is 0. That's why 6 is a divisible number of 12. The modulus of dividing 12 and 7 is 1. That's why 7 is not a divisible number of 12. No?
Isn't it? Should be number modulus value.
Oh, yes, you're right. I did it wrong. So what? Okay, so you're right. So what I've done here, right? So what I've done here, you're right. I did it wrong. So I got the what? I got the even numbers that are probably below that one. But we don't want to do that. So yes, so U is correct. So what do we need to do? We need to divide the number by the value. Is that correct? Okay.
And then you change the function name.
I need to change the function name. Yes.
The one you call.
Yes. So what will this return? So U says that this returns 8 and 12.
Wait. What the hell did I just?
No.
Just 12. 1 and 12.
Yes, to see you were paying attention. Cool. I think he's right. Exactly. 1 and 12, right? So that's what Alex was trying to do, but unfortunately the question was a bit slightly different, right? Cool. So that was question number 2. Then question number 3. Victor, you can please be ready in a minute because you're going to solve it. So exists token. So we have a sentence, right? And we want to see whether this token is part of that sentence. And the question told us that the search should be case insensitive. That's why the M in capitals should return true because it's there, right? So under the fence is nowhere in the sentence, that should return false. And if you got literally the same thing, that should return true, because obviously this token is part of that sentence. They are literally the same thing, right? So Victor. All yours.
Interesting solution.
Alright, so we take.
That was great.
For a reason.
So Victor, you were supposed to use regex.
I will. I just want to do it my way. That's the sentence then.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna set. I'm trying to look for. Oh, there's 2 arguments, sorry. And I don't know what to call it. Token, okay.
You can call it token or match.
Alright, so token is a string. Okay, so so I did when I tried to solve this. was to do variable reg is equal to token I, because we're doing it case insensitive,
Yep.
and then to return reg dot find, no, is it find or is it search? No, test, sorry, test string, sorry, sentence.
Yep.
Spot that wrong.
Okay. Does it work?
No.
Can you try it?
But what
Doesn't work.
I don't understand is if I do here
Yep.
the M, let's say,
Mhm.
it works,
Yeah.
but when you put in the token, it doesn't. So I don't understand why.
Correct. Why? I'll let you know why. Because the way you created it, this token is evaluated as the token string.
What does that mean?
Token. It's trying to find the word token here. It's token, no token, no token, no. That's why if you
Oh.
type VM, it works here because it's looking for VM.
Right. So
So that
how
was fine.
how'd
when
you
have
get
a-
past that?
Sorry?
What are you meant to
Why
put?
is it not taking the argument?
Yeah.
Why
Why
is
is
it
it
not
taking-
recognizing?
No, because that's how JavaScript works. So when you create a regular expression, something surrounded by slashes, whatever you put in it is evaluated like it is. It's not going. JavaScript will never think, okay, this is a variable. What's the value of the variable? No. This is over optimistic. You have classes.
If you try.
Yes. You can keep playing with combos, right? But
It's not gonna work
this
ever.
may take you a while. However, that's the thing is, the interesting thing is the only thing you did wrong is the only thing that was provided by the example. So you deleted the line that made your exercise to work, right?
So this, if I done it this way,
Correct. So you need to pass two arguments of regex. First of all, what you've done. So the first thing is the token.
two arguments into here.
Yeah, at least one of them, the token.
Token.
So this is the same thing you've done, but now token, because we are using a constructor of regex, token will be evaluated. Will be evaluated to the variable it represents. And then you can type the second line, the same you did, because you got the
So now I can pass
Yep.
RE into it instead of
no.
no.
So the I.
Sorry.
You need that.
No, what
you
you-
you
what-
got that already. You just need to return. You just need to test that. Same thing you did before.
Oh right.
So before clicking, before testing it, guys, colors, red, green, etc.
It's
Um.
red when it's not told what it actually is, because I don't know
Yes.
what to talk about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, correct. So, colors,
Red, green, green.
red, green. I agree with gray. Can you try it, Victor? Red, green. Don't skip it, please. Yes, red, green. Why red, green? Why the first case?
Makes sense.
Case sensitive. Oh yeah.
Correct. By default, regex is case sensitive, so we need to tell it that it should ignore the case. That's why regex on the constructor, you can pass a second argument. This is supposed to be a string.
I is supposed to be a string. Like that.
Correct. Enter.
Hey.
Perfect. Could you please look after the spaces? It's good. Empty lines and things like that. You make that beautiful. Okay, perfect. Spaces. Where can you add spaces?
Add spaces.
Oh, yes. Where necessary, not randomly. Every time you type a comma, you are expecting a space after.
Is there no space there? Oh no, there's not. Sorry.
What else?
Um,
One more space missing. This is not going to make any difference, but this tells you are telling that you look after the details, right? That's important in the long term. Cool. Any question? Thank you, Victor. So, question number 4. Well, I believe everyone has done pretty much the same thing, right? Yeah. Right. So, yeah. Let's ignore details about regex because otherwise this will become more complicated. But let's not ignore Tom's solution. Right.
It's like hacking the system.
Yeah, I tried to use the wrong one. I didn't use the constructor, so I was wondering why I wouldn't call the token.
Yep.
And I was just getting angry, so
Okay.
yeah, now I know
It's
to
quite
use
clever
the
in a way.
constructor.
Right. Thank you. And then question number 4. So we wanted to calculate the number of capitals within a sentence. Right? I like this question. So here we got random sentence, right? And then we want to see how many capital letters do we have in it, right? jQuery is to all, capital Q1, right? Cool. Then look, I really like look at Gins. So you see what we mentioned before. I really like that because it's very easy to follow. Split, then join, then well, I don't know if this is correct or not, but at least the idea of having one command on each line is really good. Again, indentation is wrong, Kim. So remember to put it here. Yeah. So then let's see what she's done. So she's splitting the sentence. So then she gets an array of words. Then she's joining. Correct. So she has a string without the spaces, and then she's splitting again. So she has an array of characters, and then she's just getting the capital ones and getting a penalty because of the long line, and then she's joining, and then she's getting the length. That's fine. That's fine. However, probably these 2 lines are a bit necessary, not completely, right? Because at the end, if what you want to get is an array of characters, if you do sentence dot split empty string, you already get the array of characters. The only issue is if you do that directly, you will still have the space. You are right. So that's what you got. So there are 2 approaches. Either you do that, or you just ignore the space as part of the filter. Any of this is correct. But yeah, apart from that, it's really good. Nice one, Ian. So you, with his infamous for loops, so he's just iterating, you see? So in that particular case, this is what we mentioned before. So he's getting an array of characters, and then he's checking if the character is equal to the uppercase, and you see, that's the alternative, right? So he's checking that the character is not a space. Again, we should move that, should split that to avoid getting penalties. So you can move that to, I mean, every time you have these things, let's prototype it. So once we have a very long if sentence, so if you have if blah 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 and blah 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 something else, right? Every time you got that, the best thing to organize is before. So this operator, either the and or the or, should be useful to divide your logic. So look, you can add a break line like that, and another break line there, and then there, right? So here, return, okay. Right? So why that? Because then you see that you have 2 conditions, but they are properly aligned. So they are not nested, right? So that will be a bit weird because that will look like the second line belongs to the first one, but they're not, right? It's just A and B. That's why they are equally important, right? So yeah, apart from that, looking good. And so what else? We got Osman. Oh, that's interesting. So Osman did something different. Again, he got the array of chars. I like his naming conventions. He called it chars. And then he's filtering. Remember, other space here, another space there. So then he's just checking if that specific char is greater than capital A or smaller or equal than capital Z. That's interesting. It's an interesting approach, right? It works because JavaScript is the way it's sorted characters is starts with the lower cases A to Z, then starts with the capital cases. So that's why technically speaking it's correct. It's an interesting approach, right? And then you are missing a semicolon at the end. Really good, Osman. And then we got Tom. So let's see what Tom can offer to us now. So Tom, he creates an array. Again, array is not a good name, right? Let's call it chars or something more meaningful. Caps or space. So he's filtering. So he's getting the capitals. That's interesting that you call it cap or space, but that's not true. Well, no, sorry, that's true. Yes, correct. No, I'm wrong. No, you're completely right. You are completely right. Cap or space, because the spaces will be here as well. Okay, and then you loop again to remove the spaces. Then a question, can we merge these two loops in one? So why don't we, Tom, return char1 equal char1 to uppercase and char1 is not an empty space, right? Does it make sense? So, Tom? Right? Why? Because in this particular case, we are iterating twice. So this algorithm is more expensive, right? We can avoid that. Cool, apart from that, looking good. And then Gray did something even more exotic than anyone else. So he just said whether the sentence matches that regular expression. So this is like the advanced version of what Osman proposed, right? So Osman just got the characters between capital A and capital Z, and Gray did the same thing but using a regex, which is very clever, right? But you forgot the semicolon.
Thanks for that.
Cool, cheers. It's good. I like this because different styles, different approaches, so it's good to compare each other, right? And then finally, let's and then with what so let's see what Victor, why Victor's solution didn't work. So Victor, if can so that's pretty much, you're ignoring the empty space, Victor. That's probably the main reason why it doesn't work, right? Because if you got an empty space, you're counting it,
Yeah.
right?
But, yeah. I don't think it was even returning anything.
No, but apart from that, looks good, right? I mean, you didn't initialize the variable I, that's why it's in red.
Yeah,
But
I don't think it was returning the count anyway. I don't think it was doing anything.
split rate of length array I later equals. I think that's correct. I mean, it will give you a higher number than expected,
Yeah.
but apart from that, should be correct. Can anyone spot any issue? Because he said that didn't work apart from the counting problem. So he said that didn't return anything. I mean, again, you should initialize the variable, of course, right? But apart from that, yeah, should be good. Cool. And lastly, Alex. So she's doing the same. Yeah, she got the same issue, right? Same issue. She's ignoring the space. That's why she's not getting the right number at the end. Cool. And then finally, question number 5, which everyone has solved it. I mean, well, not everyone except Victor and Alex. But that's we already explained this one. You remember we explained this one? So let me see what everyone has done. So we have a list of characters again, and this is like a blacklist, right? So we want to filter out these characters from this list. So in that particular case, if we receive any exclamation mark, we want just to get rid of it. So Jin, she splits the list, and then yes, correct. So look, she's doing okay. I have an array of letters. So for each individual letter, I want to keep it. If that letter, should you call it letters or letter? In singular, right? That's always a bit confusing because in here we got one individual. Why one individual letter? Because you're splitting using a empty array, right? If you want to learn more about split and join, Chandon will perform a workshop as we agreed yesterday, and as you can see, yes, on the calendar. Cool. Yes. Yeah. So that's probably one of the most efficient ways to solve it, right? Yeah. So let's see what else here. So you did something different. No for loop this time. So she has an array of tokens. So each token is a character, and then what he's doing is that's a bit dodgy, right? So the
I couldn't remember how to
So-
reference the second array. I didn't know how to use it.
Can anyone see, on top of the syntax mess, because of all the indentation issues, can anyone see what's the main issue with use approach?
What there isn't a symbol two in the proof is what there's like only one symbol, what is empty. As in the second array, the second argument, what it's
Yeah, correct. So he's statically checking against, look at the second argument, which is the blacklist of characters. So he's assuming that the blacklist of characters has two forbidden characters, right? The first one and the second one. But what happened if we change the example to add a third one? Your example, your solution will fail because you will ignore it. Right? That's why your solution, even though it works for that particular set of data, it won't work as soon as we change the data model. However, Jin's solution is way more flexible because she doesn't care about how large the list of forbidden characters is. Okay? Cool. Next one, Osman. So Osman is doing something different. So he is, as usual, getting an individual character, and then he's finding that character within the list. So if that character is not on the list, that's why he's negating the condition. He's just returning it, and finally he's joining it. Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's just a different strategy. It looks a bit more complicated, in my opinion, because look, compare Osman with Jin, right? So what Jin did, rem.includes, is the automatic way of writing these 4 lines of code, right? We just want to check if one string is included in another one, which is what Osman did manually. So try to use includes as much as possible because it just simplifies your life, right? But apart from that, it's okay. Tom also uses includes, but it's like a mix of Jin and you, right? You can see that Tom uses includes, but again, he has the same issue. As soon as we are a third character on the blacklist, his solution will fail, right, Tom? Because you are statically comparing against token 0 and tokens 1, but what happens if we have tokens 2? You will ignore it. Correct, yeah? And finally, Gray, he did the same thing as Jin. He also failed on the indentation, as you can see, right? Because dot filter and dot join, that should be indented to the right with one tab. But apart from that, yeah, looking really good. That's pretty much it, guys. Is there anything else you want to talk about? No? Any question? Any problem? No? Cool. Thank you for participating. Looking forward to catch up on the next challenge.